Hey, you guys, welcome back to my wellness podcast. I've been seeing people podcasting from like their couches and their beds, so I thought, why not me? Why not me? Literally, I bought this pregnancy pillow to force myself to rest more, to get in my bed, to stay in my bed. So that's what we're doing here. Last wellness podcast last week, I was sitting on the floor right in front of my bed, and in my mind, I was like, what if I just sat on my bed? Whatever. We're here. We're comfortable, because that's what's most important, is being comfortable. And I'm in my hoodie, in my sweats, as per usual. Like, dream job is to stay in my sweats. I was having this conversation last night with one of my dance students who showed up first time in my class, did not wear sweats to hip hop. They were like, I don't like wearing sweats. They wore a sweater and tight biker shorts, and they're like, I don't like wearing sweats because it seems unprofessional. And I was like, it's a shift of a mindset, one shift away from being like, actually, I'm a professional hip hop dancer. That's why I wear sweats all the time. And hello, me, like growing up, I was always like dreading when I'd have to dress like an adult one day, dreading it. And I've tried so hard over the years to find my style in like a corporate businessy kind of attire, and I know it's in there somewhere. I just haven't found clothes that fit properly or the style that I want. So I'm working my way there. But other than that, I was like, well, I can just be a professional hip hop dancer and literally wear sweats everywhere. Like, I have my indoor sweats at home, then I have my sweats that I wear outdoors. Welcome back to my podcast. I've always wanted to start a podcast. This is how I know how to start a podcast. Okay, here on YouTube, a visual kind of podcast. You can also listen to it. I'm just not advanced enough yet, and I don't know how to put one on Spotify, but maybe one day. But first and foremost, we're here, and this week I wanted to just share about my journey to becoming a professional WNBA dancer. Because let me tell you, the journey was not easy. The journey was not linear. It was freaking crazy, to be honest. But I'm here and I want to share my story, hoping that it will inspire you in some way or another. And just to remind you that, like, you can accomplish your dreams and goals. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter what age. It doesn't even matter if you quit and then decide to come back. Like, I quit. At one point, I quit in 2021, 2022. If you don't know me, my name's Jamie. I used to go by Jamie Sky. I'm now back to my last name, Jamie Chung, and I've been around for some time here and there, a little inconsistent, but I'm 31 years old. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, and I live in Los Angeles now, and I'm in North Hollywood in my cute little apartment. The sun is shining, and it's beautiful here. And let's talk about a bit about my journey. So if you follow me on YouTube, you've seen me post ever since. I have some videos dating back to when I was in university and I went to Queens. But let's start from the beginning. I've always been a dancer, been dancing since I was in the womb, probably, because I came out of the womb dancing, wiggling, moving in some way, shape, or form. My earliest memories were just dancing at the bus stop, dancing in the grocery store, dancing on the street. And my sister was always really embarrassed of me and was like, can you stop? And wanted me to stop moving. And it was really hard. I would hear music and my body would just want to move and I'd want to wiggle and have fun. My mom put me in dance classes when I was 3. I started at the Martha Hicks School of Ballet. I did ballet as a little kid, and then I think there were some gaps, because I remember I focused on karate until I was 11 and got my black belt, and then I think I came back to dance around that time, and I did jazz, modern, hip-hop. I never did tap. I was more of a recreational dancer to start, and I knew that I always loved it. I was even choreographing dances at home with my sister and my cousins. When I went to summer camp, I was teaching dance and choreographing shows for the family, for the other campers. Like, that was always me. I was in that bag as a kid. I didn't grow up doing ballet consistently or jazz or any of those technique classes. Like I said, I never even did tap. It was more recreational. Like I also played soccer, horseback riding, played the flute, went to swimming, did dance. So I did kind of everything. And once I got to high school, I stuck with doing hip hop only because that's what made me the happiest. And at the Martha Hicks School of Ballet, I auditioned for the company. It's called the company, and it's where the more advanced dancers go, and then we get to do showcases and go to competitions. So I got to do that with the hip hop team. I never did any other style in high school. I loved hip hop. I was obsessed with it. And once I got old enough, my mom always had me drive to dance class myself. So she taught me how to drive a car and was like, you can take yourself now to dance class. And I was like, great. I don't remember how often I was dancing a week, once or twice. Like, it really wasn't a lot. It was very recreational. But I loved it. I don't know. And I loved performing. I loved recitals. I loved being on the stages. My parents always supported me and came to my recitals. I'm sure my siblings came as well. My dad would like fall asleep at the recitals and only wake up when I was on stage. He didn't care about anyone else, which is fine. Yeah, and my parents, they helped pay for all my dance classes. So they did support me in that way. I will say though, I really wish like they had seen me and been like, oh, they want to go to dance school. Like, she should go to dance school. She's choreographing outside of school. Like, she loves middle school dances. Everything just revolved around dance. Yeah, I put on talent shows at school. Like, I was that person. So even my grade A teacher was like, I can tell you're going to like go do great things with dance. And I was like, I know I am one day. Because I would just light up when I was on the stage. Okay, I'm a Virgo Leo cusp. I love being the center of attention. And I hated admitting that for a long time. But no, I love it. Look at me. Watch me. So wishful thinking, I do wish my parents had seen me and were like, okay, let's send her to like an art school, go to dance. But alas, my path was not that. It was to go the academic route. My dad is a doctor. My mom was an x-ray technologist. They met in the hospital. My older brother was going to med school. So being a lawyer or a doctor was my foreseen path in my parents' mind. I never had those thoughts. Like, it didn't really cross my mind. I mean, in grade 8, I did write, like on our like thing, we were writing our dreams and goals. And I was like, one day I'm going to grow up to be a lawyer, a doctor, or a dancer. And I was like, okay, those first two are my parents. That last one was all me because I had always wanted to be a dancer. Just since watching MTV growing up as a kid, Goodies by Sierra, that whole album did it for me. Like, that's the reason why I wanted to become a professional dancer. Being obsessed with watching music videos when they would come out, illegally downloading music on LimeWire, like copying choreography from music videos. I don't know. I loved it so much. And what kid didn't? Like, that shit was fun. So that's what made me want to become a professional dancer. I had no clue what it even entailed because I was recreational growing up. I know that now. I was not someone who trained technique as a kid for years and years and years and went to competitions and did all styles and then went to school and got a BA in dance or a BFA. Like, that was not me. So it was really hard when I did come to LA and I found that, oh, there's like my world of dance, recreational dance, and then the professional industry world. And I was like, making that transition was so interesting and so eye-opening and hard. And we'll get into that. So loved dancing in high school. Then I went to university. I went to Queens. It's in Kingston, 3 hours outside of Toronto. That was kind of my destiny. Like I said, high school was mostly academic. I went to a very academic high school and my path was laid out. It was go to high school and then go to university after, get a degree and get a job. Something like that. So I went to Leaside High and it was super academic, very focused on AP classes, very little to do with the arts. We did have visual arts class, which I did take until 10th or 11th grade. We had musical theater, but I was like, I'm not a musical theater kid. I can't even sing. Looking back now, I'm 100% a musical theater kid. I'm obsessed with musical theater. Ugh. No blame games here. No shoulda, woulda, couldas, but I do think about that a lot. So I found my creative outlet in dance through still going to dance at the Martha Higgs School of Ballet, and then doing talent shows in high school, doing the fashion show, choreographing, dancing at lunchtime, just like being that nerdy kid who also danced in between classes. And oh yeah, let's not forget people who bullied me throughout high school, who just told me I was a bad dancer, that I couldn't dance. Even going to parties in high school, people were like, wow, you were so wasted. I can't believe it. Like, did you see yourself? And I was like, actually, and my friend was like, actually, she's a dancer. And I was like, yeah. I was just unhinged. And like, you know, I didn't have great technique, so I was unhinged. Fast forward, I go to university, and that first week, like fresh week, someone on my floor, Rachel, she came and she was like, hey, I was at this Fresh event and they have this hip hop dance club called Flow Dance Club, and I think you should join, because somewhere it came up that I was a dancer in like the first day of being at Queens, obviously. And I was like, Flow Dance Club, what's that? So I went to check it out, and I saw it was a hip hop club, all hip hop club at Queens. We had different dance. We had like Queens Dance Club, Kinetic Crew, Step Crew, Bollywood team. We had all different types of dance teams, and Flow Dance Club was like this little dance club. There's lots of Asian people, and they did only hip hop, and they had classes, dropping classes, and they had a recital, and they went to competitions. They went to Ontario University competition for hip hop, and I was like, bet I want to be on this dance team. And outside of school, I joined Flow Dance Club as the recreational club. And then I also auditioned for the performance crew. And I remember in my first year, I was like, I'm going to be co-president of this Flow Dance Club one day. Just like that. And I was. By the fourth year, I was. And so first year, I auditioned for the team, didn't make it. Was really upset because I was like, oh, I'm so good though. I was very confident. I was very delulu. I look back and I'm like, wow, I was seriously delulu in my dance journey. But you kind of have to be. Like, I really did think I was so good. I mean, I knew I was good. It was just like my technique that I didn't realize wasn't all the way there, because I didn't have that same training. But I was great at picking up choreography. It was just like my execution and textures and all the things I've worked on over the years, and like getting into my body. So we made it, okay? It took me 3 times to audition to finally make it on the performance team at university. 3 times. After saying I was going to be co-president one day. So I made it in my second year. They only do auditions once a year. So when I didn't make it my second year, I was like, oh my God, no. But then halfway through the year, something happened and they needed to have more people on the team. So they did a second audition. And that was when I made it. I was like, yeah, I made it on my second year, like halfway through. That was great and fun. I went to their weekly drop-ins. We did their recitals. We did their performance crew. We went to Ouch. We traveled around to different universities to compete, and it was so fun. I loved it. It was like a little family and a little escape from school. And most of us were Chinese, so it was really nice. And then at some point I started dating someone who was a whole narcissist, whole abusive, whole controlling, manipulative relationship. This person did not want me to dance. Anyways, we had a very toxic relationship, and he physically blocked me a lot of times from going to dance class. Why are you always going to dance? Why are you obsessed with dance? You're always choosing dance. And it's like, yeah, dance is like my first love. And he never understood that. And I wasn't confident enough to set any boundaries with this person. So I really struggled when I was at Queens, 3rd and 4th year. I was crying all the time. I was making trips back and forth constantly to Toronto, putting in effort for this person, drinking a lot, partying, just losing my way. I still somehow stumbled and made it through with like a 3.6 GPA and graduated with honors. Don't ask me how I did that. I was looking at my transcripts and I have a lot of C's, but also a lot of B's and a lot of A's. But God, I thank God that I'm smart. You know, I'm smart. I never had to study too hard, but imagine if I did study. So at this point, dating this person who just, I didn't recognize the red flags at first, and of course you never do. And then they revealed themselves throughout the years. I lost my best friend and my roommate. I lost so many friends. I lost myself, and I just became so involved with this person who didn't support me at all and would like drive 3 hours to come stalk me at my apartment, to come block me physically from going to my dance classes, going to dance recitals. And dance became like the only thing I had left and held on to. I didn't even like school. I didn't like myself. I didn't like him. It was hard. I hated everything. I was so sad and so depressed. So dance became such an escape for me. And I held on to this dream of like, you know what, maybe like I'm going to keep dancing and be a professional dancer, and that's all I want. Like, I don't really know what I want after school. I just know I want to keep dancing. And I remember it was like fourth year, we were graduating, and I was driving one of my teammates back home to Toronto, and she was like, yeah, I'm going to go to dentist school after this. And I just thought, what? Like, you don't want to continue dancing after this? And that's when I realized like Flow Dance Club was really a hobby for a lot of people. For most people, everyone was going to go to a secondary, like graduate school, or go right into working. And I legitimately could not think of anything that I wanted to do in life other than to continue dancing. I didn't really know actually if I was going to be professional. I just knew I wanted to keep dancing. So I graduate, I move back to Toronto, move in with my mom, and I get a job at City Dance Corps. It's one of the biggest studios in Toronto. I start off working there as a receptionist, and I'm just so excited to be involved with dance. I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my degree. And I got to take dance classes there for free, and it was so fun. I started taking heels, and I wish I did take more ballet and like work on my technique and foundation when I was there, but I still wasn't in that mindset of like I need technique. That didn't really kick in until I was like 25, 26. So I'm a little bit more consistent with ballet now these days. Yes, even at 31, turning 32. You can do ballet at any age. So I always love working on my technique now. And City Dance Corps is great. They gave me so many opportunities. I made friends with choreographers like Chris Knowles, and he let me start to sub his classes. I started subbing heels classes. Like, who was little in me thinking they could teach heels? But I did anyways. And I also joined Boss Dance Company, an all-girls hip-hop dance crew in Toronto, and the girls club. And that was co-ed, but it was heels training with Tamina. And so those were all great for me. I was working at City Dance Corps, and I was on a hip hop team. We did shows, videos, and competitions under the training of Leah Totten. And then I also did the girls club under Tamina Pollock Paris, who has a big resume and trained, went on tour with Lady Gaga multiple times. And I was obsessed. And those were the places where they became my first mentors, into a look into the industry a little bit more. That wasn't just competitions and recreational. It was like, okay, let's take headshots and let's train as if we're auditioning for certain jobs, and how to dance and work with music artists. So Tamina really gave me that space in the girls club to start working more professionally and thinking more like an industry professional. So this was 2016, 2017. I was 22, 23 at the time. Then I met one of my now mentors, Kim Gingras and Melanie Ma, and they had a workshop together called You Got This Girl, and they came to Toronto. They're from Montreal. Well, Kim is. They came to Toronto and they held a workshop at the Underground, and it was called You Got This Girl. And they were like, if you want to become a professional dancer in LA, you can do it. And I was like, oh, say the word. And they talked about manifestation and visualization and goal setting and all the things that I was just like, like my eyes were so big and sparkling. And I was like, oh my God, if they can do it, like I can do it. And I remember telling my friends, oh, I'm actually a dual citizen in the States. And they were like, what are you still doing here? You need to go to LA right now. Like, move to LA. And I was like, oh, I didn't even really think if that was something that I wanted, that I knew about. I knew nothing about going to LA. Never even been to LA. Oh my God, this is so funny reflecting on the journey, because at the time it just all seemed so like, yeah, I'm just going to do this, this, and this. And you're not really thinking about it. You're just kind of doing. And now I'm just like, oh my God, I really knew nothing. But then I thought, okay, like I could do that. And this was after university. I was still dating this abusive person who was so bad for me and just like didn't support my dancing, didn't want me to be a professional dancer, thought I was such a slut, such a hoe. I didn't care. I knew I had to get rid of him, but it was hard. And nobody knew that he was abusing me, and it was really bad. I mean, maybe some people knew. I think my dad knew. I started go-go dancing when I was 23 with the girls club at Wildflower Club in Toronto. That was so fun. I loved being in my little underwear and like costumes and being on my heels, in my heels, on the bar. And it was the same club that my ex was a promoter at. And this was when we weren't really together anymore, but he would come and bring all his friends. And then I'd be up there dancing like half naked. And I loved it. I loved it. So April 2017 was when I finally called the police on this boy and was like, I can't deal with this anymore. He is stalking me and harassing me, death threatening me. And I called the police. I went to the station, had to give a statement. And they were like, thank you for coming. Like, this doesn't get any better, just so you know. This won't get better. So I'm glad that you're here. And it's crazy because in your mind, you do think like, this will go away, this will get better. But it never got better. Things just kept escalating or showing themselves in different ways. Like he would be manipulative in new ways. And it was kind of scary. So I'm okay now. But that was tough. And then I was like, fuck it. I literally have nothing here. Let me just move to LA. And I said to Tam and Allie, my besties, I said, let's go on a road trip. Let's go to LA. I was 23, never been. I got my passport ready, found a place to stay down here in North Hollywood with Rachel, who I was on Boss Dance Company with. She lived here. She was also a dual citizen. And I was like, let's go. You know, planned what I needed to plan. And the rest I left up to the universe. I only planned so much, and then I leave the rest up to the universe. Got in my car, packed it up. Well, we did plan out our road trip. I won't get into that, but we did drive from Toronto to LA. It took 5 days. And it was amazing. Best road trip ever. Love my friends. So grateful for them. Got to LA. Was young. Just turned 24. Had my champagne birthday. 24 on the 24th. Was drinking, partying so much when I got here with Rachel's roommate and ex-boyfriend. And he also turned out to be really sly and sneaky and just overall a bad person and took advantage of me. And it was awful. And I just felt like so out of control when I had got here. But I had met so many great dancers. I was already in the community. I was already doing Club Jete and Build a Beast and going to Millennium and Movement Lifestyle and just like doing the dancer thing. I didn't really know what that was. I was trying to film content and choreograph things and make new friends. And I did all that. It was amazing. I was like starstruck when I came to LA. It was so fun. From here, I ended up, again, falling into another relationship. So from like April, then I met this new person in August. It turned out to be, it was also like controlling and manipulative. It just was like not physically abusive. So I felt safe in this relationship with this new person. But it turns out they also didn't support my dancing and the way that I dressed and also slut shamed me and all those things. So being with people like that, it was so hard to pursue dance professionally when someone is just constantly stomping on you, blocking your blessings, not letting you be free out in the world. Somehow I made it and still had a career through it all. I guess that's the inspiring part. It's just I kept going. I kept holding on to this dream. So it was really this dream that like kept me alive and kept me alive and literally alive so that I could escape my reality and dream of something bigger and get myself out of Toronto and brought myself to LA. Delulu at its finest. Okay? But you kind of have to be. So coming here, I met a choreographer and I was doing a lot of community-based stuff, but he really put it into perspective for me. He's like, there's a difference between being industry and being community. And I really didn't know exactly what that meant. being industry is very different. And I never went to dance school. I didn't have any like connections or mentors or agencies in that way that like, because when you go to school, you learn how to become prepped for the industry. I had to figure that all out on my own through training programs, through mentors, but I did it. But I just didn't realize the difference at first. So I kept doing showcases and filming content and just doing random things here and there. And then he just made the realization that like industry is very different. You have to create a brand for yourself, get your headshots, have a certain look, have a certain style, like network with choreographers and take yourself more seriously, book jobs, say no to anything that's unpaid, and be professional on set. And that's when I started joining like LA casting or casting networks and started to get jobs like in background work and extra work for music videos and stuff like that. And anytime they were like, is anyone a dancer? I'd be like, me. And I would like go to the front and try to finesse myself. But yeah, I did a lot of background work when I first moved here and just found my way through training programs. I did Developing Next Artists at Boogie Zone with Elm Pizarro. I did Creative Minds with Antoine Troop and Kalani Marks. I did the Cameron Lee Mentorship Program. I did Kim Jean-Claude's Mentorship Experience. I did the Galen Hooks Pro Intensive. I trained at Millennium Movement, Playground. I just kind of found my way. Like you just kind of find your way, meeting people, going where it feels good, training in styles that you like, but also being open to training in new styles just so you can expand your vocabulary. I will say I wish I started my technique a lot earlier than I had, but that's okay. So I found myself, booking random jobs through my networks. Like I started booking like music videos and choreographing music videos. Eventually started to get paid little bits here and there for my work. I was still doing a lot of recreational stuff, whether it was like carnival or concept videos and stuff like that. And wow, it's been just such a journey. So that was 2017, 2018, 2019. I was doing training programs. It was a lot of fun and I was gaining more confidence. I was being called out in classes, or I was just taking center stage and putting myself out there, promoting myself on Instagram, YouTube. 2020 was off to a great start. I was like, this is the year I'm going to get signed. I went to a lot of agency auditions over the years. Clear Talent Group always saw me, but no one ever signed me. And in hindsight, like I was never ready, technique-wise or connection-wise. And I kept going back and forth with like trying to be in the industry and then just being like, okay, I'll just try to make it on my own and like stay in my own lane and create my own brand and do something there. I feel like I've only just started to do that like in the past year. 2020 came, pandemic, shut everything down. I was doing Zoom dance classes. I was making TikToks. I was just at home dancing and training. But little did I put in so much effort during COVID, so much effort, even to still connect with choreographers. And started Cameron Lee's mentorship program on Zoom. And I was dancing in the garage in my apartment and I had bad AC and it was so hot. And it was just like, God, for the love of dance. I really said for the love of dance. But like all those years of training and hard work have obviously paid off because I booked like what I could say is my first real big job is dancing in the WNBA. Like everything I have done up until now prepared me for that moment. And I didn't know that was what was coming, but it makes sense that that's what came. Totally. 2020, dating a boy. We were kind of on a break. I was still in the closet, doing a lot of heels. Body was starting to hurt. COVID shut down. Went home to Toronto. Danced with Marley at Dance Life. Was feeling so good about my dance journey. Came back to LA after being at home. Got back together with my ex and we were on a break because I felt like, oh, I have this new insight and like now I know how I can be better and how you can be better for us in the relationship. No, it was always toxic. It was always toxic. He still didn't support my dancing and still tried to convince me that dance was not a real career and that I'd never make it and that I shouldn't wear these slutty outfits. It was so hard. Imagine being with someone and you're on set for a music video and he's like, what are you wearing? Like, what are the outfits? And me being like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Look at these cute little bodysuits we have to wear. Him having full meltdowns. And it was just like, what? I can't even do my job. I can't even like have fun without this person just being so mean to me about it and then getting in fights about it. The things I let myself get into. It's okay. I didn't know. And I still somehow made it. It was hard because I think back, like if I wasn't dating these shitty ass people, how much further I'd be. But the resilience I've built, the boundaries I now know how to set, being so connected to self is great. It's amazing. So I wouldn't trade that. I learned a lot. Fast forward 2021, I auditioned for Galen Hook's Pro Intensive. Did that. It was an amazing experience. I was so shy though, because I felt like my technique was lacking and I didn't even really know who I was as a dancer going into that. I was still in the closet. I showed up as this weird, like in between hip hop and wanting to be a jazz baby. It was so weird. And she told me I had weird energy and I was upset about that for like a year. And then I ended up working for her a year later. And she still had weird energy, called me the wrong name. And I was just like, maybe we're not aligned. Even though you're my idol, maybe we're not aligned. But it was also obvious that like I wasn't 100% comfortable with who I was as a dancer and who I was as a person. This guy and I have been dating for like 3-4 years now. And it was just getting to the point where he's like, well, you're going to make a commitment to me or not? Like, you know, like let's repair our relationship and let's whatever, move with me to North Carolina. And we had this whole fantasy about like having a better life in North Carolina because cost of living is cheaper. We could get a house. Like his parents were going to help get a house. And I was like, yes, let's get a house. Like I'm ready for that. But it was coming up for me that I was like, this like feeling of like, I like girls is still coming up for me. And he was like, well, not while you're dating me. And I was like, so then maybe we need to break up. I was brainwashed, I will say that, but I was convinced that like, oh, dancers are dumb. Oh, dancers don't make a lot of money. Oh, you can't have a career in dance. Like I was so convinced and filled my head with all of that. So I was like, all right, moving to North Carolina will be the move. We have this whole fantasy of like having a big house and a life and a family together. And I was like, oh, then I can get a real job and make real money and blah, 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 and quit my career as a dancer. So in 2021, I was also sick of LA. It was so toxic. I was like trying to fit in the wrong spaces, wrong people. So I just felt like purging and going to North Carolina was the best idea for me. And it was at the time. I was so happy and so confident and so down for it. Moved to North Carolina end of 2021. A lot of people here were like, you were just starting to like get picked up in dance. Like I was training with Nicole Kirkland and I was in one of her visuals on YouTube, and that was huge for me. I was like, I had been watching Nicole on YouTube for so long. And then to be on the thumbnail of one of her YouTube videos was iconic, like such a slay. Galen Hook's program. I was just starting to get better at dance in general. And everyone was kind of surprised when I moved. I had one person be like, you seem kind of lost. And I was like, no, like, I'm so ready for this. But I will say I was a little bit brainwashed and with that fantasy. But I still love that fantasy. Like, maybe not with him, but I do like that fantasy of living like a slower paced life and having a family. It was just that like, I had this dream inside of me and I just felt like I hadn't yet accomplished it. So taking me out of LA actually was disruptive, but it actually brought me back here. So it's crazy. It's like to think that I would have ever danced for the LA Sparks and the WNBA after I had literally upped my whole life from moving to LA. Like I had to move back a second time. I never thought I'd move back a second time. That's what's crazy to me. That's what's crazy. But I always knew I could do it because I had to do it because I'm resilient and I will never fucking give up, ever. So I moved to North Carolina, drive across the country with my cat. Stella and I go, wee. Get there. I felt so happy, honestly, taking a break from LA, taking a break from dance. It really was what I needed. Then I started taking dance classes when I was there in North Carolina. I took some like contemporary and I loved it. But it was more like realizing that the person I was with was not my person, and then that his family was racist. I was like, oh, hell to the no. That was crazy. I hated where they lived. I was like, I can't live here. I actually can't do it. I thought I could do it. I cannot do it. I knew we had to break up because I was Googling things like, how do you know if you should break up with someone? And I was like, oh, I think if you're Googling it, it means you want to. So at this point I wasn't dancing, but I was doing a lot of research on like what jobs I could do. Could I go back to school? Like what real big girl job could I get, right? So I was doing all this research and I had completely given up on dance, shifted my whole life. I wanted to go to med school, law school, public health, get a master's degree. I interviewed so many different people when I moved back to Toronto. I had to move back because I did not have the strength to move back to LA. I almost did, but then the thought of like packing up my car and driving all the way across the country again, and then like not having enough money for rent and like having to apply to my apartment again. Like the landlord was like, you're going to have to apply again. And I was like, what the heck? So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go home. I'm going to go home to Toronto. Maybe this is the better move. My brother's having a baby and like, I just need to go home and chill out and relax. And then I had this whole vision of myself, like maybe I could just take what I learned in LA and bring it back to Toronto and be a big fish in a small pond in Toronto. Drove back to Toronto, left my relationship. Was really tired and sad. Got back into teaching yoga, got back into teaching dance. I went back to City Dance Corps after like 4 years. And I was like, hey, I'd love to teach here. They were so nice. They always loved me. They took a chance on me. I started teaching heels and yoga there. And that's when I started to like really understand building my brand in Toronto. And I was really on that heels wave. Like I was still on that heels wave after training for like 8-9 years. And I was like, I've seen so many people build a heels brand in LA. I could build a heels brand in LA, like with all my training. And so I started teaching heels and yoga at City Dance Corps. I felt so good. I felt so alive. I also loved using the studio to choreograph and just train by myself. I could take free classes again. It was really nice. And I kind of just integrated myself for almost 2 years in Toronto in the dance community, in the dance industry. Like I was going to auditions, even all this without an agent. I had an agent once for like a couple months. I wouldn't even count it, but I never really had an agent. I was going through a phase. 2022 is when I decided to shave my head because I had a calling for it, and I shaved my head and it was the best thing I ever did. And then my ego wanted to go blonde, and I did, and I had so much fun as Jamie Sky, and I was teaching heels classes every week. I was building this following, and it was amazing. Like I felt like, yes. But one of the reasons why I wanted to teach was really to hold myself accountable to keep dancing and to be a better dancer. And I know that that's not the most authentic reason to become a teacher, but as a byproduct, I was already like a really good teacher, so I didn't have to worry too much about that. At the same time, I did decide to go back to school because I thought, okay, I'll be in Toronto and there's not really an industry the same way there is in LA, so I'm going to go back to school and get a job. I ended up going to Humber College and doing a 1-year graduate program for wellness coaching. So I became a certified wellness coach after my yoga teacher training, and that's all good and great. I know that my path is dance, yoga, and wellness. It's just that I had to like circle back to dance because it was always my childhood dream and I hadn't finished it. It was unfinished business that was lingering. So when I was in Toronto, I just constantly felt like I just still have this dream of being a professional dancer. Like it came back after I had left my relationship and started to go into school again. I was like, this isn't like, I love this. But the one thing I learned from being in school was like, oh, I still have unfinished business as a professional dancer in LA. Like I know that 100%. It was early 2023 when Rob Rich, choreographer, teacher, educator, mentor, who I was training with in LA, was taking auditions for his Rich Fam program. And he was doing global Instagram auditions. And that was wild and crazy. I ended up making it in the top 11 out of over 500 dancers in the world. But I had an advantage. I had trained with him before and he has known me. Doing that challenge while I was at home in Toronto, like sparked everything again for me for being a professional dancer. Going through the motions of things that I hated, learning choreography from a video, filming outdoors, Finding an outfit, putting makeup on, like all those things were just hard. Those are not ways that I like to train, but it taught me so much. It taught me that I can literally do anything, that I can learn choreo from a video, that I can execute well. I had to start practicing like visualizations before and after when I was learning choreography. It was at the time when I started learning that like visualization of the choreography is just as important, if not more, than actually physically practicing in your body. You can't always physically be practicing. That's a lot. Top 11, rich fam. And I was like, you know what? I know I have to move back to LA. I know that like my dreams are waiting for me there. I just didn't really know what. And I was like, okay, I'll move back in like May 2024. I'll give myself another year in Toronto to like, I don't know, keep building, doing my thing here, being a big fish in a small pond type of vibe. Then someone I know passed away. We went to an open casket funeral, and that's when everything changed for me. That was March 2023. And I was like, oh, I have to move to LA this year. Like now. I've got to go now. And I really wasn't sure, but then I was like, all right, I'll just pick a random time to go. And I was like, November 1st. Sounds good. I can't remember why I picked it, but I was like, I'll just go back in November, as opposed to next May. And then from there, I just made the decision that like, I'm going to go back November 1st. I'm moving back to LA because I have unfinished business of being a professional dancer. Like I see myself on tour so badly with a music artist. Like that is what I see for myself. I spent the summer kind of preparing, letting go of my classes, my students, my friends. It was all very sad, but I know that like, again, I have this dream for a reason, and I have to follow my intuition because my soul, I know, would not let me rest if I didn't. I plan everything to move back to LA. I started investing in the stock market when I was 25, so I had somehow invested and had up 10 grand. That was a lot of money for me. I was like, I'm going to use that to move back to LA. I flew back this time and shipped my car. Oh, you guys, the journey. Came back to LA. And it was like, I had friends, great friends that helped me and supported me here. I moved back with no job, no secure place to stay, but everything worked out for a reason because things always work out for me. And I know that. So I come back end of 2023, start taking classes again at 88 Studios, just getting familiarized again with like the community. I went back to Cece's classes, and this is when I had like already come out. So I came out at 28, and then I was like now coming out in LA. I was queer in Toronto, and then I was not queer in LA yet. So nobody knew me as a queer person. So interesting coming back as a queer person. You see things from a different lens, different perspective. Your old friends, you've outgrown them. It's hard. You've outgrown choreographers and dancers in spaces that you used to go to. Like I really did. I was like, oh, I don't even want to train with these people anymore. Like I've got to find essentially a whole new LA. And I'm really thankful that I left LA and came back, because I don't know if any of that would have happened. Like, I don't know if I would have hit rock bottom so hard to break and crack out of my shell, to be like, oh, you know? So that's what happened. I broke out of my shell. Came back here. I started working at 88 Studios. I became an intern there to get free classes. I was doing the whole thing again, and it felt good, but it also felt icky because I was like, I'm like 30 now and I'm doing the same shit again that I did in my early 20s. And I was just like, ugh. But then I had to suck up my ego and just do it. I struggled for a bit, didn't have a job, was going through my savings so fast. Got a job working at the Now Massage Boutique. Was working at 88, taking so many classes, and had a really bad audition at EDC for Insomniac Entertainers. And lo and behold, the beginning of 2024, I was doing a lot of ballet because I knew I needed that technique, still training hip hop. And I was like, you know, I'm going to slow down this year a little bit more, do a lot more yoga, and just open up my body to be able to ready to receive something. And I kept talking to myself all year and manifesting this because I was like, I'm going on tour this year for sure. Like, it's gotta be. And I was so held on to this idea that it was going to be tour. Lo and behold, April came around and there was an audition for the LA Sparks. And I was like, what is this? WNBA hip hop dance crew. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. and still not signed with an agency at this point. I was almost trying to get signed with MSA, but they were not signing me. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe they're not interested. Whatever. I'm letting that go. I got LA Sparks all on my own. I remember showing up to the audition, and it just felt like another one of those moments where it's like, ugh, I don't even want to go inside. Like, I just don't want to go. Sometimes you just don't want to go. Like, mentally, you've been to so many auditions. You've waited in so many lines. You've been in these crowded rooms. You're just tired of getting rejected and not being seen. Go to the audition. Instead of doing the girl choreo, I was like, I'm going to do the boy choreo, because that's just like how I feel these days. Like, coming back to my authentic self of like being queer, being more masculine, being a hip hop dancer. I was like, I'm tired of the heels. I'm tired of like playing that game, trying to be that girl. Like, that is not how I dance. It's not how my body wants to move. It hurts my body. You know, I'm not that flexible. I'm flexible now, but don't get me wrong. I'm not like some technically trained dancers. Like, I'm not at that level. So I just had to like really take a look at myself. Be like, well, what am I good at? I'm good at hip hop. I'm great at hip hop. I'm amazing at hip hop. Like, let's stay in that lane. And that's, my friends, how I then booked myself as a WNBA dancer. The choreographer loved me, was obsessed, didn't care how I presented, accepted me for who I was. Oh, and earlier last year, I had someone say that they accepted me for who I was and let me do the boy part and the girl part. But then when it came to the actual time, they were like, you're not doing the boys part. And I was like, what did I come here and practice for? Like, don't you see me? I'm not doing the girls part. And then just to stay in the vision, I did the girls part, and it didn't feel great. I wish I'd stuck to my boundary, and now I do. Booked the LA Sparks, and then I decided to leave 88 Studios because I felt like I didn't have time to do both. Also didn't feel like 88 was a great alignment space for me personally. So happy that I booked the LA Sparks. Like, you don't even know. I went to Manhattan Beach afterwards, walked along the pier, thanked my spirit guides, and was laughing with them because I was like, oh, I knew something big was going to happen. I just didn't know it'd be this, but it like makes sense from all the dance teams that I used to be on. And now being queer, it was just like the world had to wait till I was ready. It was always there for me, waiting. I just had to get back to my authentic self and stop pretending to be this heels girly and just be the gay, masculine, non-binary lesbian that I am. Well, I do identify as non-binary now. I'm not a lesbian. I identify as gay, but just had to be that version of me, and look what came. So all that to say, be yourself. Be yourself. I actually was watching this video of myself last year. So I was talking to myself last year a lot. I made all these talking videos, and one of them from about a year ago was like, I know you're scared to like be the masculine lesbian that you are, but just be yourself. Like, I know it's scary, but just do it. Just be it. And like, things are going to be okay. And then I really leaned into that. I had the undercut, and I like made sure I was like almost hyper masculine in a way to just prove my masculinity and prove that I was gay. And I know that that's, the undercut is like baby gay, and I'm accepting that whole journey of myself. But all in all, to say, be yourself, because your authenticity will shine through first and foremost, and that's what's going to book you jobs. And that came from a podcast I listened to. They were like, stop trying to fit yourself into all these boxes. Dance and dancing professionally isn't just this one idea that we have of it. So I kept thinking it has to be this one idea of like going on tour with a music artist. That's great and all. That's great. That's great. Maybe that's in my path. Maybe it's not. It doesn't matter. What does professionally dancing look like to you? And I accomplished my dream goal of being a professional dancer, and it just manifested in a different way than I thought. But my career is not over. I can still do whatever I want with my career, unless I do really want to retire, but I don't want to retire right now. And right now I am a dance teacher, and I'm really enjoying that side of it. Because I feel like booking the Sparks like scratched an itch that I had, like I said, unfinished business. And now I feel like I can focus on being a teacher. I was trying to teach last year, but I still felt like it was a bit inauthentic. It was kind of like me trying to hold myself accountable for being a dancer and being cool and making the best, dopest choreo and like putting myself center stage. But now it's like, you know what? I've done that with the Sparks. Now it's just about being a good teacher and passing that down and empowering other people to become good dancers and inspire them. So that's kind of where I'm at on the dance journey. Yes, I do still want to audition for the LA Sparks this year. Would love that. And yes, I do have to re-audition. And then everything else is just kind of up in the air. EDC auditions are this weekend on Saturday. I say I want to go. Haven't really practiced. I haven't really fully decided. I don't know. May or may not go. I've been on casting networks just applying for some jobs. I'm really not trying to like get an agent. I'm growing out my hair. I'm just trying to stay low key right now. I don't even have new headshots. Like, I'm chilling. Like, I'm so happy with that goal. And people are going to try to convince you that you always need more. And maybe you can also get stuck in that mindset. I was in that mindset for a long time of like, oh, I need more. I'll never be happy. I'll never be satisfied. And I had some people in the industry ask me like, you know, if you were a grandparent right now, would you be happy with where your career's at and telling your grandkids? No. But I was like, yeah. And they're always going to try to convince you that like, it's not enough and that you should always want more. But it's like, just be happy. Like last year, I really was like, no, I'm so happy. This is all I've ever wanted. And I got it. Like after I was dating people who were like, don't dance in the NBA. You're such a fucking slut and you're going to sleep with the basketball players. So I did audition for the Raptors. Didn't go to the Lakers or the Clippers because the people I were dating were like, no, you're a hoe. So now I'm like, look what I did. WNBA. Because I'm gay. Suck on that. So I feel like this job really came full circle. Really happy, really proud of myself. Really feel like I'm just yapping now and I'm tired. So thank you for listening. I am sure this is not the last time I will tell my story. And maybe I will figure out how to shorten it. Maybe, just maybe. But thanks for tuning in to my weekly podcast. I think what I do want to talk about next time is wellness and dance. So another thing that was really holding me back from really becoming a professional dancer was my wellness. And that's something I do want to talk about. That's why yoga and wellness have been so important to me and such critical factors in my journey. And maybe it's wellness that could be holding you back too. So I'll see you next week. Bye.